Hello everyone, and welcome back to my personal channel for this month's member question and answer. All of you are welcome to stay here and hang out, but if you'd like to participate in the chat, you're going to need to be a member of this channel. People who are members of this channel, feel free to get your questions in and I'll try to answer them during the course of this live stream. Anyways, I'm going to start with a question from Historic History, which they got in through my post earlier. The question was, how's everything going and how have I been? I'm mostly good. Mostly good with some caveats. During Sam Bankman-Fried's criminal trial, Cass and I over at Crypto Critics Corner did a whole series of podcast episodes covering the trial. And that was intensive. It was a lot of interviewing, a lot of researching, a lot of editing and stuff, and doing it all alongside my actual job of covering some of this type of stuff for Protos was a lot. After that period ended, both Cass and I were burnt out and struggling a little bit. Historic History's other question, and this will kind of get into that, noted that it's been a few months since the last Crypto Critics Corner. For those of you who are curious, there is more Crypto Critics Corner coming. Cass and I have 2 different episodes we've thought through and have started working on. Those will be coming in the next several weeks, and we hope to get back into the flow of that. As I mentioned, after that kind of period really intensely covering the Sam Bankman-Fried trial, both of us were struggling a little bit. I have had a lot less desire to be on camera. Being on camera doing this type of thing has felt more intensely like a demand that activates my pathological demand avoidance, or persistent drive for autonomy, if you want the new correct term for PDA. And so I've had a lot less desire to be on camera, which has slowed the rate that I've been releasing videos. I still have a couple of really good, really longer scripts I've been working on that I hope to record relatively soon that'll be coming to this channel. I actually ended up doing like some actual history work on what's been called the westernmost battle in the Revolutionary War because it happened relatively close to where I currently live. So I've been doing a bunch of research into that, and like, believe it or not, some of the claims that are made on the local Chamber of Commerce website to attract tourists don't tell the full story about this battle. I'll get into it eventually when I release this video I've been working on, but in short, it's less of a battle and more of a bunch of American troops walking into an indigenous village and burning it as these indigenous folks had already retreated and watched the village burn. The really troubling aspect of it is that the village we were burning was populated almost entirely by, as far as I can tell, our allies who had just recently helped defend against a major British assault and things like that. So I'm working on a big video about that. I'm doing a read of The Yellow Kid by Joseph File and some companion pieces for that. But broadly, I haven't had a lot of desire to be on camera. Being on camera has been hard for me recently, and Cass took some time to deal with some mental health issues. So Crypto Critics Corner hasn't been going out, and I've been making fewer videos, though not no videos, fewer videos on this channel. Overall, though, I still feel pretty good. Winter's always a little rougher for me, but mostly I'm doing good. Mostly I feel good, and mostly I'm excited to get back into working on some of these bigger projects I've been working on. I've got a couple of videos scripted over for my D&D channel I hope to record in the next couple weeks. Have a couple videos over here I hope to record in the next couple weeks. There's things coming. Just with the holidays and everything else, it was a bit of a struggle. Getting into other questions, Louis Strauss asks, what do I think that the halvings impact on Bitcoin's price is going to be? And I said in the chat, as some of you can see, that I thought that was a fun question. And the reason I think this is fun is because there are a lot of people who already have a lot of theories on what effect the halving will have on Bitcoin. Plan B created an entire model that has already broken many times over that was supposed to show how these halvings drove price increase. At its most basic, the reason that some traders think, sorry, let's go even more basic for some people in the chat here. Bitcoin mining every 4 years. 4 years. Let's go with 4 years, and I'll Google it later and make sure I'm not wrong. Every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin issued per block is cut in half until we reach the point where we hit 21 million, and then it goes to 0. What this means is multifaceted, but one thing that some traders point to is to suggest that there is some amount of relatively steady state demand for Bitcoin, and that there is some amount of new supply being added into the market. And so if we assume that demand stays relatively steady, as new Bitcoin coming into the market goes down, we might expect for this demand to drive up the price of Bitcoin. However, the assumption some of you might be catching in there is that it assumes basically monotonically increasing demand for Bitcoin, which doesn't make sense, and if it exists as a feature, exists regardless of the halving. And so in order to justify that kind of belief, you need to buy into kind of Zusu, Kyle Davies style super cycle beliefs, right? Where Bitcoin is predestined to eventually reach this incredible value. And each of these halvings basically accelerate the rate at which you move along that exponential curve, because there's less new supply, but still the same increasing demand. And as such, you then expect to see this kind of acceleration in Bitcoin's price. This is Plan B's model, it's the supercycle model, it's all these. But at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily make sense, because the demand doesn't need to do that. There is already lots of Bitcoins that are out there, and adding more Bitcoins to the amount that are out there. People who are holding their Bitcoins can sell their Bitcoins, and regularly do. And so like the issue of supply being sold is not just a function of new coins going to miners, and it undersells some of the security difficulties inherent in reducing the supply of new Bitcoins being issued. We talked about this a little bit in an episode of Crypto Critics Corner, where we interviewed Micah Warren. But the long and short of it is that Bitcoin miners are incentivized by those Bitcoin miners are incentivized by the new coins to then burn all this energy, all this money, effectively securing the Bitcoin network. And so what the halvings definitely do is reduce the incentive for miners to participate in the network. And at like one level, this is okay. This suggests that halvings reduce the environmental damage of Bitcoin, and I broadly think that is a good thing. However, the tricky kind of flip side of that position is there already exists a lot of Bitcoin miners, the physical machines, the computers out in the world. And so when you reduce the incentive for those to be used for their stated purpose, mining Bitcoin, you start to create an incentive for those to be used for a attacking Bitcoin purpose. And so the halving, regardless of its effect on price, seems to negatively impact the security of Bitcoin. And I linked in the chat our podcast episode about that if you want to go deeper on it. But at its most basic level, the halving has no real reason to drive increases in Bitcoin price. It has reasons to decrease Bitcoin security, and largely, principally, just recommends or is this kind of distribution math. Anyone who's got any more questions, you should get them in now, because we're going to be wrapping up, I think, pretty soon, unless we get a lot more questions. But the type of belief surrounding like the halving in price generally seems to me to come from people who have spent a lot less time dealing with Bitcoin's incentives and really thinking through Bitcoin's incentives, especially in the edge cases, in the worst case scenarios. And as kind of a byproduct of that, you see a lot of this kind of weird effect we're talking about. I think that, so to answer the question as simply as possible, what's my take on the halving's impact on Bitcoin's price, is basically none. I think there is a small increase in like negative risks. So there's a slight increase in things going terribly wrong. I think there's arguably in if you create assumptions around like steady state demand and things like that, if those turn out to be true, for some reason, people really do want Bitcoin for all these things, then maybe tweaking those numbers matter. But most miners are already basically investing almost exactly what they're getting out. So what you really see is just miners start investing a lot less money, and their like net zero thing stays at like net zero. And so the dynamics don't work out that way. The link I just sent in the chat is a panel discussion I did with Dr. Micah Warren over at University of Oregon, along with several other people, where we were discussing some of these dynamics surrounding like the security assumptions of Bitcoin and what people often get wrong about them. I think that is all I have for today. I want to remind you guys that if you want to check out my writing, which is a thing I have still been doing, you can read my articles and my newsletter over at Protos. Crypto Critics Corner will be back soon, so make sure you are subscribed over there, and make sure you stay subscribed over here, because like I said, I've got some really good videos that I'm working on. Scripts are coming along, research is coming along. I just need to, sit in front of this here camera and say a bunch of words, and then spend a bunch of hours taking the video of those words and making it into a compelling piece of media. So as soon as I do that, there'll be content for y'all. Anyways, thank you all for joining me for this live stream today, and especially to my members, thank you for your support. I really appreciate all of you who have contributed to this, especially with the fact that I did miss at least one live stream over the holidays, and I appreciate all of you for staying here with me, for bearing with me, for providing your support, and for making sure to share, support, and all. I very much appreciate that you all enjoy the things I make, watch the things I make, and enjoy all of this. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure to have a nice day.